There's a deep, quiet power in simply being yourself, without apology, without performance, without pretending to be someone you think others want. When you're genuinely unapologetic about who you are, something shifts. You stop trying to fit into a mold or be perfect version someone else expects. Instead, you start living fully and openly with all the beautiful complexity and vulnerability that comes with it. And that kind of authenticity, it's magnetic. It makes people lean in, listen, and yes, sometimes worry. They worry because you're no longer predictable, no longer the safe bet they thought they understood. You've become a force that can't be easily contained or controlled. When you show up as your true self, you give permission, not just to others, but to yourself, to be imperfect and whole at the same time. You acknowledge your fears, your flaws, your scars, and you carry them with courage rather than shame. That kind of bravery invites connection, but also invites a little unease. People who are used to you playing it safe, keeping your edges tucked in, or seeking approval might suddenly wonder what's happening now. Because your presence isn't a commodity anymore. You're not there just to fill a role or ease someone's comfort. You're there as a fully realized human being, and that's unpredictable. It's real. And that's where the worry comes from. The recognition that losing access to that realness would leave a void no performance could fill. But here's the thing, this isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about honesty. It's about the sacred act of showing up and saying, this is me, take it or leave it. And when you do that consistently, it demands respect. It invites others to show up with the same honesty or risk being out of sync with you. It builds a space where relationships become deeper, more authentic, and more meaningful. And paradoxically, in that space, when you're not chasing approval or trying to be everything to everyone, the gray rock, your presence becomes something that others want to hold on to, not because they fear losing you, but because they recognize the rare and valuable gift of your true self. You don't have to be loud or dramatic about this. Often, the most powerful form of an apologetic selfhood is quiet. It's the steady, calm confidence of someone who knows their worth and refuses to dim their light to make others comfortable. It's showing up without armor, without masks, fully human and vulnerable. And that's when a woman starts to worry, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you've become someone worth caring about deeply. There's no secret trick here, no manipulation, just the courage to be exactly who you are, the up of the gray apologetically and without compromise. And that kind of presence is unforgettable. There's a profound strength in setting emotional boundaries, and it's one of the most misunderstood aspects of connection. Too often, we think that being close means always being available, always sharing everything, always sacrificing our own needs for the sake of the relationship. But that's not true intimacy. It's codependency disguised as love, middle of the gray rock. When you learn to honor your emotional boundaries, you're not shutting someone out. You're showing up with integrity and respect for yourself and for the other person. You're saying, I have feelings, needs, and limits, and I will protect them. And when you do that with kindness and clarity, it creates a space where genuine connection can flourish. Think about what happens when you are always available, always pouring yourself out without pause or protection. It becomes easy for others to take your presence for granted. When there's no limit, there's no urgency, no appreciation for the time or energy you give. But when you start to guard your emotional space, when you choose when, how, and with whom you share your deepest parts, you create a powerful dynamic. Suddenly, your attention isn't something to be expected. It's something to be earned and cherished. And that shift, it causes a person to stop and think. It causes a woman to worry because the security of your constant availability is gone. Now, your presence feels precious and rare. This isn't about playing games or creating distance for the sake of drama. It's about a deep respect for yourself that invites others to respect you too. The goal, when you have boundaries, you're also teaching others how to treat you. You're showing what's acceptable, and what's not in how they engage with you emotionally. And it requires courage because it means sometimes saying no, sometimes stepping back, sometimes sitting with discomfort rather than rushing to fix or soothe. But that discomfort is part of the process, part of the growing pains of creating healthier, more balanced relationships. When you honor your emotional boundaries, you also cultivate resilience. You stop being overwhelmed by other people's feelings and expectations. You learn to say, I see you, I care about you, but I'm not responsible for your emotions. This kind of separation is not distance, it's clarity. It allows you to engage fully when you're present and to step away without guilt when you need to protect your well-being. That balance creates a magnetic energy because it's rooted in self-respect and authenticity. Most importantly, setting emotional boundaries invites honesty. It invites a relationship where both people show up as whole individuals, not halves trying to fill each other's voids. When you're clear about your limits, it challenges the other person to rise, to meet you with equal respect, empathy, and commitment. And that challenge makes your absence something to worry about because it's no longer easy or guaranteed. Your emotional availability becomes a choice you make intentionally, and that makes all the difference. You don't have to apologize for protecting your heart. The boundaries aren't walls, they're the framework of real intimacy. And that kind of respect is worth worrying about. When a man is relentlessly pursuing his purpose, something profound happens. Not just within himself, but in the way others perceive him. Purpose is magnetic because it's an expression of deep meaning and direction. It's not about chasing approval or validation. It's about dedicating yourself to something bigger than momentary satisfaction or fleeting desires. When your life is driven by purpose, you carry a kind of quiet power that can't be replicated or faked. And that power shifts how a woman experiences you. She starts to notice your absence differently because you're not just around to fill a role. You're out there in the world doing work that matters, creating, contributing, and living intentionally. This relentless pursuit is not about business or distraction. It's about clarity and commitment. When you know what you stand for, where you're headed, and what you refuse to compromise on, you move through the world with confidence. You're not available for every call or every demand, not because you don't care, because your attention is precious and focused. That kind of presence, paradoxically, is felt most when you're physically absent. The goal of the gray rock, your absence carries weight because it is the absence of a man who's deeply engaged with his own life. And that weight is felt in a way that makes a woman pause, reflect, and yes, worry. Living with purpose requires vulnerability. It means showing up with all your imperfections and fears and still stepping forward. It means embracing uncertainty and risk because what matters most is not comfort but growth and contribution. This kind of vulnerability is not a weakness. It's the very thing that makes your purpose authentic and inspiring. It's the thing that invites connection on a level deeper than surface attraction. When a woman senses that your life has meaning beyond her, it challenges her to reconsider the place she holds in your world. And that challenge can stir worry because it signals that you cannot be possessed or confined. The beauty of pursuing your purpose relentlessly is that it creates a rhythm of engagement and withdrawal. You show up fully in moments of connection, but you also step away without guilt to honor the commitments that fuel your soul. That rhythm demands respect because it is rooted in integrity. It says, I will not dilute my vision to fit someone else's comfort zone. It says, my path is not negotiable, and if you want to walk with me, you need to respect that. And that respect, when earned, creates a powerful dynamic. It shifts the relationship from dependency to partnership. It makes your presence something that must be valued and your absence something that cannot be ignored. Purpose is a form of self-love. It's a declaration that your life matters, that your dreams are valid, and that your energy deserves to be spent wisely. When a woman sees that she can't help but worry, not because she's insecure, but because she recognizes the rarity of a man who lives with such devotion to himself and his calling. That worry isn't about control. It's about the preciousness of what you bring into the world. Purpose makes you unforgettable. There's something deeply transformative about stepping away from codependency, about refusing to carry the weight of fixing everything, about resisting the urge to be available every moment just to soothe someone else's discomfort. When you stop being the safety net, the constant fixer, or the emotional crutch, you change the entire dynamic of your relationships. It's not easy because it means sitting with discomfort, both your own and the other person's. But it's necessary because when you're always there to patch things up or fill every silence, you create a pattern where your presence is expected, sometimes even taken for granted. But when you begin to withdraw, not as punishment or game playing, but as an act of self-respect, you shift from being the constant solution to becoming a person whose absence is felt deeply. Codependency often disguises itself as love, but in truth, it's a form of losing yourself in someone else's needs. It's exhausting, and over time, it erodes your sense of self-worth. You might find yourself caught in a cycle of over-giving and under-receiving, trying to fix everything around you while neglecting the essential task of tending to your own heart. The moment you step back, something shifts. There's space for both of you to breathe, to reflect, and to face the reality of your connection. This withdrawal isn't about pushing her away or creating distance to manipulate feelings. It's about creating healthy boundaries and inviting both of you to show up as whole individuals, not as codependent halves. When you step away, even briefly, it challenges her to sit with the possibility of your absence. And that possibility is powerful because it forces reflection. It creates a question mark where once there was certainty. It invites her to consider what it would truly mean if you weren't always there to smooth things over or be the safety net. That moment of uncertainty is where worry lives, not the kind that is controlling or possessive, but the kind that comes from realizing something precious might be slipping away. When you choose to no longer be the constant fixer, you're giving space for a relationship to be redefined, for deeper, more balanced connection to take root. This is also an act of courage. It means resisting the impulse to jump in and rescue, to avoid conflict or discomfort at all costs. It means embracing the idea that growth often happens in the tension, in the discomfort, and not in the quick fixes. When you hold that space, you demonstrate that your love isn't conditional on always being needed. Instead, it's rooted in respect for both yourself and the other person's capacity to grow. The withdrawal from codependency signals strength. It signals that your worth isn't tied to how much you can do for someone else. It signals that your presence is a gift, not an obligation. And when that presence is not guaranteed, it becomes something to cherish rather than something to expect. You don't need to fix everything to be valuable. Sometimes the most powerful way to show up is by stepping back. There's a quiet power and calm confidence that most people don't fully appreciate. It's not about being loud, aggressive, or overly assertive. It's about having such a deep sense of peace with who you are that you don't feel the need to chase, explain, or justify yourself. When a man carries that kind of energy, it changes everything. It shifts the dynamic in a way that's subtle but undeniable. There's no frantic grasping or desperation. Instead, there's a steady assurance that says, I know my worth, I know my boundaries. I'm not here to prove myself to anyone. And that presence, calm, centered, unwavering, is deeply unsettling to someone who's used to chasing after attention or trying to control outcomes. Calm confidence is rooted in self-awareness and self-acceptance. It's about having the courage to show up exactly as you are, without masks or armor. It means you've done the work to understand your value, your flaws, and your strengths. And you've made peace with all of it. Because when you're comfortable in your own skin, you don't feel threatened by others' opinions or validation. You don't scramble for approval or reassurance. You stand firm in your truth, and that steadiness creates a magnetic pull. What makes this kind of confidence so powerful is its contrast to noise, the desperate calls for attention, the neediness, the constant explanations. When a man refuses to chase, beg, or over-explain, he rises above the chaos. He becomes a calm harbor in a storm, a presence that invites trust and respect rather than anxiety or control. This isn't about arrogance or aloofness, it's about groundedness. It's about saying, I'm here, I'm enough, and I won't waste my energy trying to convince you otherwise. That quiet strength makes a woman stop and take notice. It makes her worry, not because you're distant or uncaring, but because your calmness signals that you're not going to tolerate chaos or drama. You're not someone to be taken for granted. Calm confidence also invites healthy boundaries. When you know your worth and hold space for yourself with dignity, you naturally create limits around what you'll accept and how you're treated. You don't respond to every call or text immediately, not out of gamesmanship, but because your time and energy are sacred. You don't apologize for needing space or for having priorities outside the relationship. That respect for yourself commands respect from others. It teaches that your presence is a gift, not a given. In this way, calm confidence is a form of vulnerability disguised as strength. It requires letting go of the need to control how others see you and embracing the uncertainty of being fully yourself. It means trusting that the right people will be drawn to your authentic energy and that anyone who isn't willing to meet you there isn't meant to stay. That trust creates freedom. Freedom from the anxiety of chasing, from the fear of rejection, and from the constant need to prove your worth. When a woman senses this kind of calm confidence, she begins to worry, not because you're distant or cold, but because you've become someone who cannot be easily caught or controlled. You've become a man who knows his value and refuses to settle for less. Calm confidence is peace that speaks louder than noise. There's a strength in being willing to walk away, a strength that often goes unnoticed because it's misunderstood as weakness or abandonment. But the truth is the power to leave with dignity, not out of anger or desperation, but from a place of self-respect and clarity, is one of the most profound expressions of love you can offer yourself and others. It's a reminder that you are not defined by any one relationship or circumstance, that your worth doesn't depend on being needed or held onto. And that willingness to step away creates a space that invites reflection, growth, and a deeper appreciation for what you bring into the world. When you're willing to walk away, you are setting a boundary that says, I know my value, and I will not stay where I am not respected or honored. This is not about threatening or manipulating. It's about being honest with yourself and others about what you will and will not accept. It's about refusing to shrink yourself or settle for less than what aligns with your integrity. And when a woman senses that you have this kind of resolve, it stirs something deep within her because she knows that your presence is not guaranteed. It becomes something precious, something to be protected and valued, not taken for granted. Walking away requires immense courage because it means facing uncertainty and the possibility of loss. It means standing in your truth even when it's uncomfortable or painful. But this kind of courage is also liberating. It frees you from the chains of fear and codependency. It allows you to choose presence or absence based on what truly serves your growth and well-being, not on the need to please or avoid conflict. And when you carry yourself with this freedom, your absence becomes a powerful statement, a silent message that says, I am whole with or without this connection. This willingness to walk away invites a new kind of respect. It disrupts the illusion of control in relationships, reminding both parties that connection is a choice, not a guarantee. And that reminder can create worry because it reveals the fragility and beauty of genuine connection. It shows that love is not about possession or control, but about mutual respect and freedom. When you hold space for this kind of love, you become someone worth worrying about, not because you're elusive or hard to reach, but because you honor yourself enough to never settle for anything less than authentic connection. There's a grace in leaving, not a harsh or angry departure, but a calm, dignified step back that honors what was and what could be. It says, I cherish what we shared, but I will not lose myself in holding on. And that grace invites reflection, healing, and sometimes transformation. It's a testament to the power of self-love and the wisdom that true strength lies in knowing when to stay and when to go. You don't need to fight for your worth. Sometimes the most powerful move is to walk away with dignity,